Hello, I'm Crow Ravel. The purpose of this video is to be an introduction to the video game FTL Faster Than Light. Now, the main focus of this video is to cover core concepts as well as various strategies and tactics within the game, but we're only going to get through Sector 1. Now, the lessons we learned in Sector 1 are applicable throughout the other sectors within the game, and that would be an incredibly long series of videos. So we're just going to do the first sector. Now, I have this game currently set on easy, since we are all just starting out, and the game is plenty difficult enough on the easy setting. I also have the advanced edition content disabled. This is again for just introductory purposes. It limits the amount of weapons we can possibly see, as well as some systems that we could have on our ship. I do recommend starting out without having the content enabled. At least get a few runs in before you turn this on, just to limit the amount of information you have to digest, because there is going to be quite a bit of it. Alright, with that, we're actually going to go ahead and start up the game here. So the basic story is that the data we carry is vital to the remaining Federation fleet. You'll need supplies for the journey, so make sure to explore each sector before moving on to the next, but we have to get to the exit before the pursuing Rebel fleet can catch up. Okay. So here is the HUD. You're going to be seeing a lot of this. It could perhaps be overwhelming to start with, but is very user-friendly in my opinion. Up here we have our hull. We start off with 30 hull. Once we run out of that, our ship is dead. This can be repaired at various stations within the game, stores, as well as events. Here is our scrap. This is the currency within the game of FTL. So we can buy items in stores, potentially also do upgrades within our ship. The jump button here is when our FTL drive is charged, we can jump to another point within the map. Ship here is just a menu. It shows us upgrades, crew, and equipment. We'll get to this a little bit later. Here we have our shields display. It lets us know how many shield bubbles we currently have activated. We have one, and the bottom bar shows you how much time it takes for an individual shield to recharge. Here is our fuel. Each jump consumes 1 fuel. Running out of fuel is a bad time. You have to wait for somebody to show up and possibly help you out, or destroy an enemy ship that shows up, so best to not run out of fuel. We also have missiles, which are used for missiles and bomb weapons. Like other consumables, it can at times be traded in events. If you run out of missiles, your missile weapons do not work anymore. We also have drones. Now, with the advanced content turned off, these drones only apply to drone control. With advanced content turned on, drones are also used, or drone parts are also used in hacking. Next is evade statistics. So this is your likelihood of evading enemy projectiles, currently at 15%. So of course, the higher this number is, the less likely you're to get hit by enemy weapons. Next is the oxygen level. This lets you know how much oxygen is currently in your ship. We're at 100%. So let's go over a little bit about oxygen here. If you open your doors, we notice how the how this room becomes lined with pink and dark pink bars. This quickly shows us that this room has no oxygen in it. Most crew, when they go into an oxygenless room, start taking damage as they are suffocating. So you don't want to hang out in oxygenless rooms. But it will return to normal. Now, once the bars go away, we can put the crew back in here, and even though this room is not at 100% oxygen, we are not taking damage. So it's just the bars is when we start taking damage with a given crew member. So here's our crew, currently at 3. And each crew member has a skill set over here. As you perform any of these given tasks, you gain experience. So if you're in piloting this system here, and you evade a shot, you gain 1 experience. After 13 evasions, this particular character will gain a level in piloting, which will increase their evasion. Each of these skills has a total of 2 levels. So piloting, engines, shield recharge, weapon recharging, repairing damaged systems, and combat skill, so fighting. These 2 buttons are for one saves your current crew position and the other one returns crews to the previous saved position. So if we just alt-click everyone in the group, we see by the green boxes where they're going to go. We can hit the return position and they go exactly where they were when we saved it from last time. Now down here in the bottom left-hand side, we see our reactor as well as the powered systems on our ship. We are currently sitting at 8 reactor. So none of these systems are now currently powered. By clicking on the system or using the hotkeys, we can see the green bar fill the rectangle and lets us know that those systems are currently online. Alright, so here is our weapon system. Weapons are powered from left to right. They're going to be really important in dealing with enemy ships. We also have an auto fire, which lets you, the weapons will shoot as immediately once they become charged. I should also go over. So we have shields here. Shields, this bubble we see around our ship, if we depower it, it goes away. Once again, we watch the charge here. The shield becomes full. The shield will absorb a single projectile if it's a laser. I can also do it with an asteroid. I know how much damage that projectile deals. It only takes down a single shield bubble. Here's our engines. So the more power we have in the engines, the faster our FTL drive charges to jump to a new point in the map. Very convenient for also if you're in a bad fight and need to get away quickly. Also, the more engines we have currently online improves our evasion. So you see if we have no bars and our engine's completely offline, our evasion is 0. Once we power it up, we get to 15, and each subsequent bar is 5%. Our evasion is also added to by the pilot and the individual on engines, which we'll sort of get over to main positions a little bit later on. We have a med bay here, so that's where we can heal a crew member. Alright, so we'll go ahead and send the crew there, turn it on, and it will restore their health to full. Here we have the oxygen. So you need your oxygen on, or what starts happening is it slowly drains from rooms. Once it gets into that, the bars, everybody on our crew starts taking damage. But it has to get pretty low before we actually start losing health. So even at, we're down to 76%, we can start seeing a slight pinkish hue to various rooms, but no one is actually taking damage. We'll go ahead and turn it back on. There are additional systems in the game, and they will be subsequently added to here on this side. Now here are the subsystems. These don't require power from the reactor to use, so if you get upgrades for them, they are permanent, barring them receiving damage. So we have piloting, which is how we get around. We also have sensors. We see them in this room here. This provides us information on our ship as well as enemy ships. And we also have doors, which we can control. A single click opens all the interior doors. A double click opens all the doors. And then the top one closes all the doors. Okay, so we're gonna have to heal up one more time. Okay, put everyone back. Alright, now let's look at the ship menu. Here we have the upgrades. So down here is the reactor upgrade. 20 scrap buys us another power which we can use for any system. We have our shields, our engines, and all the upgrade and all these systems that will require power will be up here. We can max out at a total of 8 systems. That's worth noting that you could only have 8 systems. Some ships will start off with more systems than here, and you should be very careful and selective on what systems you actually add to your ship in the game. Our subsystem upgrades are here. So improving shields gives us more shield bubbles. Improving engines gives us the ability to evade more, charge our FTL drive more. We can heal faster with an improved med bay. Oxygen is replenished faster with upgrades to O2. Improving weapon controls allows us to have more weapons on the powered, or perhaps even more powerful weapons. Increasing piloting doesn't actually increase invasion. What it does is it allows for an autopilot to take over if we have no one in piloting for whatever reason. So at level 2, it gives us 50% evasion without a pilot, and at level 3, we would operate like 80% of having a person on piloting. So again, here's sensors, or I'm sorry, I skipped over sensors. So we see at the different sensor levels, we can see our ship interior. The next level lets us see the enemy interior. Then we can see weapon charge rates, and at the maximum level, which is a manned sensors level 3, we can actually see how power gets used. Doors are an effective tool in dealing with enemy borders. It also helps the spread of fire, and controlling the door system allows us to occasionally open doors for the removal of O2, which serves a couple of functions in the game. So again, we can see our crew, which maxes out at 8, as well as our equipment. So this is where you can look at your weapons and see what each weapon is. If we had a drone system online, the drones would be here. We also have a cargo hold, which can house a total of 4 weapons or drones. So once it fills up, though, if you get any more material, you're going to have to leave something behind. There's also augments, which are sort of passives that we can find in the game. Now, we should also understand whenever starting any FTL run is the strengths and weaknesses of any given ship. With advanced content, there are a total of 28 ship layouts, and each one comes with its strength and weakness. I would say that the Kestrel A here is a fairly solid ship. It's not the best ship in the game, but it is quite strong in various areas. One area is it's fairly good with venting, which is the removing of oxygen from rooms in most parts of the ship. Removal of oxygen is a great way to kill fires, as well as try to move around borders in our ship. So it's relatively easy to vent most areas of the ship except the front of it. We have 3 crew, and they're all humans. So humans are known for not being good at anything, but they're also not bad at anything. They also only have single blue option, so that's a bit unfortunate. Blue options are typically better rewards or available options in given events. We do start with a Burst Laser 2 and an Artemis. Burst Laser 2, in my opinion, is the best purchasable weapon in the game, and the de facto second best weapon in the game. So we also have the Artemis, which is one of the best missile weapons in the game. So we have really strong starting weapons here. Now, I guess, like I said, some of the weaknesses is because we don't have any, we have human crews, which only have a single blue option. We're fairly limited in getting bonus scrap from events. Also, we're a little light on crew manning systems. So each system with a person over it is granted a bonus when somebody is at it. So having somebody in piloting, well, aside from if we don't have any piloting, we can't do jumps, and our evasion is 0 unless we have autopilot on. So that grants us evasion having that a man on there. If you have somebody on doors, it actually kicks it up a level as well. And now we actually have functional level 2 doors. Going in sensors isn't going to show you anything, but this is effectively level 2 sensors. Having somebody on weapons charges weapons faster. Having someone on shields charges shields faster. Okay, so we're going to hit the jump button and take a quick look at the sector. Alright, now whenever there's a jump that we can go to that has a store, it will tell us. It also will occasionally tell us if there is a distress beacon available. Now each one of these jumps takes a single fuel. when looking at a sector map layout, it's very important to go over points to ensure that you have a safe path to the exit. Some layouts will have long gaps, such as these 2 points here, which we can't jump between them. And so you never want to get stuck having to backtrack, or worse, having to die behind the enemy line, which we'll get over once the rebels decide to show up in a sector. Okay, so we have a pretty good map layout here on our way to the exit. Now when I get into a sector, and as well as the start of the game, I kind of like to figure out what is my goal within this sector. And the main goal is to fix up weaknesses within our ship. So while I would like some additional crew and our weapons are already strong, our defenses aren't particularly amazing. We only have a single shield, though most ships do start out with a single shield. I do put it at a very, very high priority to get a second shield online. I wouldn't turn down perhaps finding another weapon, as well as some improvement to engines. But right now we're just going to try and gain some scrap. There's no point in going to the store right now to buy anything. 30 scrap isn't a lot to buy it. So let's go ahead and we're going to take our first jump. We'll see what's at this distress. Okay, so we read here that a small civilian ship flies over as soon as we arrive. You're prepared to fight, but they inform you that they're just out of FTL fuel and can't jump. So we can either not give them any fuel, or we can provide them with 4 fuel. I like to sit around 14 fuel for a given sector, and we already know that we're very close to a store which will allow us to buy fuel anyways. So we're going to go ahead and give them 4 fuel and hope for a reward. Now, rewards are somewhat random. They could give us some scrap, potentially just a map layout of the sector. And it's also important knowing that events, sometimes the positive, not only are they different from like different positive results, but some results could be positive or negative. These are just determined by RNG. So it's very good to be informed about the potential results of any decision you make. So let's go ahead. We're going to give them 4 fuel. And they said, thank you. Here we have extra scrap as payment. And they just gave us 32 scrap. That's a phenomenal amount of scrap for 3 fuel. Fuel is like 3 scrap normally. Okay, so we're already at 62 scrap. So I'm going to go ahead and buy an upgrade for the shield system. Even though I can't buy power for that, we kind of have it. With other systems, with other power we have tied up in systems. Getting a second shield online is incredibly important. It makes a lot of fights 100% safe for us. It also simply reduces damage that we're going to take. The reduction of taking damage means we don't have to do as many repairs, and not having to do repairs means that we have more scrap to buy other things with. Okay. Now before we go to the jump, what I'm going to do is actually depower my medbay. I don't need it online unless somebody's actually healing on it. And we'll go ahead, depower the Artemis missile, and get our second shield bubble. Okay, so let's see. We see that these are in a nebula. That means our sensors are turned off and the pursuing rebel fleet, which again we can't see right now, is slowed down. But though nebulas also have a tendency to be empty jumps. Okay, so it's hard to see why, but this nebula is apparently a tourist destination. Okay, one of the ships at the small station is offering a deal. Okay, they're offering us 2 drone parts for 2 missiles. I don't currently have a use for drone parts, even though they do sell for 8 scrap versus missiles, which are 6 scrap apiece. But I do have an Artemis missile system, so I value missiles much higher than I do drones on pure scrap account. So we're just going to go ahead and ignore that offer. Take another jump. Alright, so you've jumped into the middle of a plasma storm. Multiple recently incapacitated ships loom in the shadows, briefly illuminated by the lighting. Lightning, sorry. Okay. So, plasma storms have the power rounded up on the ships, and sometimes there will be fights in these plasma storms. And this is why being familiar with events is very important. Manually searching the wreckage for survivors and equipment can yield us free crew or a weapon or drone. However, it could also potentially lose us a crew member. That is not a risk I am willing to take. Now, if I knew I was coming into a plasma storm, I could have gotten upgraded for 20 scrap my piloting to level 2, and that would provide us a blue option that we could safely search. So that we could safely search for survivors and equipment. We might not actually come out with any equipment or survivors. I think it's like a 25% chance we get nothing, but we wouldn't be risking anything. But I'm not going to risk crew here. Okay, so we now see the approaching rebels. I'll hit this distress and then we'll talk about the rebel fleet. Okay, so you follow the distress beacon to a tiny asteroid belt and you find a ship struggling to maneuver through the field. Hail and offer assistance. Help! Our shields are down and we won't last long. Again, this is another event where there are multiple blue options. Teleporter lets you just yank crew off their ship. I think defense drones can gain them as well. So we can try to shield their ship with ours. We risk the potential of taking hull damage, but our hull is already at max, so it's worth the risk of getting a potential reward here at this jump. Alright, so we tried our best, but one stray rock hits a key structure in their ship, breaks apart in front of our eyes. You salvage what you can before leaving, and try not to think about the lost crew. Get 13 scrap. Alright, so let's turn back on the oxygen, because we had that off from the event. Repower our weapons. And we're going to go ahead and buy an improvement to our reactors. It's 20 scrap. Now, reactor improvements start out at 20. They do increase as the game progresses. In fact, all systems sort of operate that way. You can see their costs to the right-hand side, how each improvement, it costs more and more scrap. So when getting improvements on your ship in general, it's best to be sort of even about it. Maxing out in weapons leaves you fairly defenseless and you can take a ton of damage. Maxing out in, say, shields and evasion means you might not be able to do enough damage for enemy ships. So it's typical not to go too much one way or the other. Now, you normally can get away with level 1 medbay for most of the game, as well as level 1 oxygen. There are certain situations where you might want to have that improved. As well as... So level 2 piloting, we could have got a blue option there. As well as, I guess I could talk about something called buffer points. We could put a point in a system so that when that system takes damage, we're still getting the effect on it. So if we got a buffer point in piloting, we could take 1 damage to piloting and we still have our evasion intact. Once a system is broken and stops functioning, it has to be repaired before we can use it again. And that takes time. So again, we're going to go ahead and buy a power bar. Hopefully we can actually get to a fight now. Alright, so this is the pursuing rebel fleet. So we see how it says warning. So the rebel fleet is the white line here, and next jump, they're going to be this red line. You see how this beacon and this one over here are flashing red. So the rebels are going to control those beacons. Going behind this red line is known as diving. Now, diving is typically a bad idea, particularly early on in sectors. Diving behind the enemy line results in a tougher fight than what is normally expected. And if you do so outside of a nebula, you will also have to face enemy ASBs. They just fire these giant railgun cannons at your ship that do 3 damage and cause a breach. Alright, so I think we can get in this jump before we actually go to the store, and then jump over here, and we'll be well ahead of the fleet pursuit. Okay, So we detect an automated scout attacking a small refilling outpost. Again, we are given the option to avoid the conflict or intervene and defend the outpost. So defending the outpost gives us a potential of 2 rewards. So here we see the enemy ship, and for the most part, they follow the exact same rules as our ship. Now, this assault drone actually isn't manned, and there's no oxygen aboard any of its rooms. But we can actually get quite a bit of information from the ship, just from the layout here. We can see exactly how much damage it takes to kill it, what its hull shield situation is. So we know that they only have level 1 shields, so that means they could have 2 to 3 power in shields. It does take 2 power bars or 2 upgrades to get a single shield bubble. And down here we see their other systems. So we have piloting, we have shields, we have their engines, a weapon system, and here we see that they have drone control. So it's quite likely they have drones. Or no, it's not quite likely they have drones. They definitely have drones. And automated ships, knowing some information about the game, automated ships do not have defensive drones. These are purely offensive drones. So these are going to be combat drones or they're going to be beam drones. Now, unfortunately, we really can't make out its weapons that it has. We see a little piece peeking up right here. Now, on easy mode, from what I've been able to gather, enemy ships will have 2 power in shields. So only 1 shield bubble. They have 1 to 2 power in engines. About 1 to 2 power in weapons. Typically maxes out at 2 to 3 crew and 2 power in drone control. All drone control systems start at 2 power. So I'm going to assume that it has some sort of combat drone or a beam drone, as well as, I think that's a beam weapon, a mini beam. So we're going to go ahead and intervene to defend the outpost. Now here's another important part of the game. Before we do that is we hit the spacebar and we can pause it. At any point in the game we can hit pause. It allows us to micro any situation for the best results. Alright, detecting the higher threat, the automated ship moves in to attack us. Okay, we can continue. So again, the game is paused, and now we can see the layout of its systems. We'll unpause here and stop. Okay, so we see this weapon is a basic laser. It's very important to understand what all the weapons in the game look like. So we know that this is a basic laser and that this is a combat beam drone 1. So this laser fires a single projectile capable of only taking down a single shield bubble, and this laser only deals 1 damage, which means it cannot pierce a single shield. Knowing this, we are completely safe in this fight. If this hits one of our shield bubbles, the other bubble is able to absorb the beam, and we will regain our shield charge before this weapon is able to fire again. And this is why getting shields 2 is so strong in FTL Sector 1 here. We are now completely safe in this fight. If we only had 1 shield, it was very possible we could take quite a bit of damage from this fight, but now we are completely safe. So now we should take down the enemy ship here. Assessing the situation, I'm going to go ahead and not use the Artemis missile here. You can depower it, or just not fire it. Both are fine. So because we don't have to use this because we're not in danger of taking any damage. I actually am going to charge it though because there's a possibility that some ships will try to run away, and we might need a quick strike to deal damage to an enemy ship. Now, normally when I'm fighting a ship, the first thing I want to do is take its weapons offline. Since we're actually not in fear of taking damage from this vessel, I'm going to start by targeting the shields to get its shield bubble offline. Okay, so all of our shots were able to hit, and we can now see that the system is in red. With the system in red, it is damaged and no longer powered. If it's orange, it's it has been damaged, but it's not completely offline. So shields are now completely offline. Automated ship will slowly repair this system by itself. So now we're going to switch to piloting and drop its evasion. Alright, so now with the piloting red, the enemy ship's evasion is 0. We can hit whatever target we want to. Right, and it's a clean fight. So the ship breaks apart and we are able to get 1 fuel, 1 missile, 12 scrap. Continue, and the outpost hails us for destroying that ship. Gives us another 26 scrap, 2 missiles, 2 fuel. Okay, so we are at, we can see we're at 43 scrap. It's not really enough scrap to buy anything at the store, but we're going to go there anyways just to have a discussion about what's a store. Alright, so there's only one other ship at the beacon. It is showing heavy damage. You receive a message on its console. Greetings, traveler. We are crippled by a band of pirates and are now forced to sell our remaining valuable equipment to acquire necessary supplies to get home. Okay, lots of emptiness here. So these are augments. We already showed you how they exist in the ship. We have drone recovery arm. Since we don't have a drone system, this does nothing for us. FTL recharge booster would allow us to charge our FTL drive faster. I'm inclined to just buy improvements to our engines, which would charge our FTL faster as well as decrease our evasion from enemy shots. Scrap recovery arm. I guess this is sort of known as a meme. It allows the ship to collect an additional 10% more scrap rounded down from a given jump. You can probably get away with purchasing this on easy. I would not recommend ever buying this item though. There's almost always just straight up improvements you can do to your ship that's more effective. And on easy mode, we are going to be generating plenty enough scrap to... We should be able to completely upgrade every system in our ship before we reach the end. Alright, so we don't even have a drone system for these drones. I assume that we already saw it, but you could assume that on page 2 that there is going to be drones, a system of some sort. Alright, so the drone control, which always comes with 2 power, and it's either going to come with a defense drone, a combat drone, or a repair drone. Defense drone is the best drone system you can buy. So it'll come with a defense drone, which can shoot down missiles, asteroids, as well as incoming drones. There are a couple. There's a boarding drone and an ion drone. So we have cloaking. Cloaking is a system. It costs 150 scrap. It is the most expensive system in the game. And it gives us for 5 seconds plus 60 evasion. So if you have level 4 engines and fully trained pilot and person in engines, that's 100% evasion. Yeah, very, very, very powerful system. We can't afford that right now. We can also potentially hire a crew. And we have some NGs and a rock. Now, NGs, we can read here, their repair speed is doubled, but their combat damage is half. NGs are, for my opinion, the best crew in the game. The ability to repair any system at the rate that 2 normal people repair it is amazing. NGs also have the most blue options in the game. So they almost pay for themselves, particularly on easier modes. So it's a really good idea to have an NG running around your ship able to do repairs. We also have a Rockman here. Now, rocks are immune to fire. They are slower, their movement speed is half, but their max health is at 150. So NGs are 100, humans are 100 as well. Rocks have the second most blue options in the game. They are well liked for their, so you can, if you have a system on fire, you can put them in there without fear of them taking damage. They're also sort of good fighters because they have so much more health than every other species in the game. Fortunately, we can't buy any crew right now. It's not a bad investment. I just can't afford it right now. Yeah, burst laser 2 is, like I said, one of the best weapons in the game. Artemis is a really solid weapon as well. I wouldn't sell them just to pick up a crew member in this situation. All right, we see there's another store. We're going to go ahead and ignore that. The enemy fleet pursuit is consistent, though. So when sort of doing a layout sector, once you can see the enemy fleet line, we can sort of predict exactly where we have to be in the sector to reach the exit before they do. So we can guess that it's about 1, 2, 3, 4. We can probably make another 5 jumps before we get to the exit. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We also see these points here. Like this one connects as well. So if we made a miscalculation, if somehow the fleet pursuit doubled or got stalled, we have option. It's always nice to have potential like backup options on our routing to the exit. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as soon as you arrive at the Federation encrypted message, a rebel ship has been terrorizing the local civilians in the system. Please seek and destroy it. Okay, so let's go looking for the rebel ship. Again, a chance at double rewards. After far too much time searching, you are finally able to track him down. You go into the fight pondering just how much of a head start you've lost to the rebel fleet. Okay, so this is a danger of this event, is that the fleet pursuit can double. So the fleet has actually jumped 2 lines instead of 1. Again, we can look at the enemy ship and see what its systems are. We have oxygen piloting shields, a single shield bubble, and a weapon system. So we don't have to worry about boarding or any drones whatsoever. Okay, so we're going to hit continue. We can clearly see its weapons now. So we have a basic laser and a heavy laser 1. We've already talked about the basic laser. So heavy laser 1 is a single projectile that deals 2 damage. Heavy laser is an incredibly strong weapon in the game. Once shields are down, being able to deal 2 damage to a system is pretty destructive. It also has a fairly high chance of causing a breach or a fire, both of which will make it difficult to do repairs. A fire could potentially do more damage to a system, while a breach has to be repaired before you're able to do repairs to the system. Though it does 2 damage to our hull and a system, it still only takes down 1 shield. So having 2 shields means that we don't take any damage in this fight. So again, we're going to keep the Artemis online for the potential to take out a system if it tries to run away. But we're going to be relying heavily on our burst laser too. Another option that we could do is nothing. We could sit here and farm evasion from these 2 weapons. So we could turn off our Artemis missile, put the power into engine, increase our evasion to 20%, and just wait to gain experience from eventual dodges. Go ahead and play Minesweeper during this. For the purposes of the videos, we're not going to wait. Alright, so like we did the first time, we're going to go and target its shield system since we don't have to take their weapons offline. Alright, so it did evade 1 shot. We didn't completely break their shields. And they were able to repair it. Okay, 2 damage, and now we see that the shield system is offline. Let's see. Oh, let's talk about manning systems in the ship. So you obviously need somebody in engine or in piloting. That's where you get evasion and your ability to do jumps in the game. The second most important spot is engines. This helps with evasion as well. Avoiding damage is one of the perhaps initially underrated aspects of the game. People starting out like to get really ridiculous, overpowered weapons and sort of neglect their defenses. So anyways, we defeated the ship, got 21 scrap, 1 fuel, 1 drone. All Alright, we didn't get double rewards, and yeah, we can see how their jump... 2 jumps, so we lost a jump for that as well. Probably not worthwhile then. So yeah, so we pilot manning, then engines. Next, I would say is weapons, if you have a weapons system. Having a person on weapons decreases the charge time for weapons to get a lock and fire on enemy ships. It's pretty obvious why having your weapons fire faster is really strong. Now, a lot of people starting out tend to go to shields as the next system if we get a 4th crew member. I recommend doing doors instead. Being able to have level 2 doors prevents boarders from just going anywhere they want to in the ship. And that happens like right after a jump typically. Either they come up from a ship or they're part of an event and they directly board into your ship. So let's say if you have some boarders who start here. If we don't have somebody on doors from here, they can go to the shields, they can go to weapons, and they can start attacking systems directly. If we're on doors, though, their pursuit is slow. They have to break down each door along the way, and what we could do is we can actually start venting systems as they progress, and they take damage from lack of oxygen. Once they get through that door, the oxygen starts leaving that room, and so on and so forth. So that's why I prioritize doors more so than shields. Now, if the event doesn't have borders, we can just easily move this 4th person over to shields before we take damage from almost any potential weapon that the enemies have. So then after doors, then yes, I would recommend shields, and then finally sensors. There will be some exceptions. Perhaps you don't actually have a weapon system on a boarding ship, so no point in putting an individual there. In advanced content, you have mind control, which requires to have at least level 2 sensors to be able to control enemies on opposing ships. Alright, so we're at 64 scrap. I'm going to go ahead and just buy another power bar. No, actually, I want to do something before we go do that. So let's see. We still have 1, 2, 3 jumps left instead of 5. Alright, so this beacon is built for a nearby civilian space station. No one hails your ship. Okay, so empty jumps are part of the game. Okay, so we recognize this ship as a well-known slave trader. He hails you and offers you laborers for cheap. Okay, so they're offering us a rock for 35 scrap. A rock we saw in the store sells for 55 scrap. Really good crew member because of the blue options. We got a 4th crew. We can put them to man on a system. A lot of benefits. The problem is that if we're not only paying 35 for that crew member, we're also not getting scrap from destroying this ship. So instead, we're going to go ahead and attack the slaver scum. Now we see they have a basic laser, which again, our 2 shield system is good, but they also have a missile weapon. I'm really happy we actually ran into a missile here. So missile weapons pierce shields. They just ardently ignore them, even level 5 shields. So you have to rely on your evasion. Now, yeah, we could have got the power bar, but what I'm in fact going to do to maximize our evasion is turn off the oxygen and power up the engines. I mean, our oxygen's still at 95%. It probably will not take the duration of this fight to start taking damage because of lack of oxygen. Now, because their system can actually do us damage, I am going to use the Artemis missile to target their weapons, thus ensuring that they go offline. Now, we have an Artemis missile here, and it looks like they potentially have the exact same weapon as we do. It's probably not an Artemis, it's most likely a Leto. They use the exact same assets, but as I said before, enemy ships only have 2 power weapon systems in Sector 1, typically. So this basic laser is 1 power, leaving 1 power for this. So most likely it's a 1 damage Leto. Now, what's interesting about slave ships, it's worth noting, is the possibility that they'll try and bribe us with a crew member. So we'll actually get a crew member for free, minus the scrap of destroying the ship. Okay, so we saw that it was a Lado, the 1 damage missile, and it started a fire. Now our Artemis dealt 2 damage and took their weapon system offline, so we're going to go ahead and target their shields with our burst laser. Let's go ahead and do venting to remove the fire from the oxygen room. So we're going to open up all of our doors and move our crew from that area. Okay, so we surrender. Take one of our slaves as tribute. If it destroys, they'll all die anyways. So now instead of spending scrap on a crew member, they're just giving us a crew member. So their scrap reward could be somewhere in the like 11 to 25 scrap range, while this NG is worth 55 scrap. This is a really strong investment on our part. So we're going to accept this offer and we'll have an NG. Okay, so let's open up the rest of the doors and we'll let the fire eventually extinguish itself out. Come on, NG. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close all the doors. And we'll get 2 crew to do repairs. Now, when repairing on the ship, okay, I'm going to pause to explain this so I don't actually die from lack of oxygen. 42% is a little bit low. So in doing repairs, you have to complete the repair for it to stick. So, and to do so, you need to have people in the room. So let's go ahead, we'll put the NG in the room, and we'll start seeing a yellow bar across the repair. Now, if we remove the NG, that repair goes away. What we can do is we can put the NG in there. We can also put the other human and do the repair even faster. But what we could do is we put the human in, and we can take the NG out, and the repair just continues. So we'll go ahead and put both of them in. Should be repaired relatively quickly. Power up that oxygen, and then move them to the med bay. Actually, here enemy systems are breaking down the enemy ships from fires. Okay, let's go ahead and power up the med bay. It's also important to note that, so our oxygen was offline, and if we were in a really desperate situation, you might think that you could just buy the upgrade to the oxygen and be okay. If you buy an upgrade to a broken system, the upgrade is also broken. Okay, so we're going to return our crews. So we have an NG here. We're going to go and put NG on doors. We also discussed about the importance of, having crew members on doors versus shields. So that's a lot stronger for us. Now, I don't see anything in this sector. We don't have, like... Alright, we're probably going to do something very bad here for explanation purposes. We're going to do a dive. Doesn't feel... Okay, so yeah, we have the NG on doors. Let's go ahead and buy a power bar, and we're going to upgrade our engines as well. So engines are sort of the... After level 2 shields, I typically like to start upgrading engines, try to get them to level 4, then go to level 3 shields, and about sectors 4 or 5. Alright, so we're going to show you what a dive is. So we could just go to the exit and we make it to the next sector. But we also see that if we took these 2 jumps here, we could potentially get an additional 2 jumps out of this sector. Diving in Sector 1 is almost universally a bad idea. Our ship is very weak. And the rewards are very slight. But I kind of want to get over more fights than what we have. Okay, so a nearby station hails you. Greetings, your arrival is most fortuitous. Recent came into some extra drones. If you give us fuel, we can make a deal. 4 fuel for a drone. No way. We will reject that offer. Okay, so now we've seen the pursuit has eaten the exit. Alright, so you stumble across a forward scout for the rebel fleet. So a forward scout means it's going to try to run away, and it typically has stronger engines than most normal ships. We see it looks like they have a basic laser and mini beam, but no borders. We'll go ahead and move the NG to shields, and let the fight roll. There it goes, trying to get away. So we're actually going to target its evasion first. fire the Artemis missile. Piloting is down. We'll go ahead and deal damage to their shields. Now we can actually see the doors moving on the enemy ship, letting us know where crew is moving about. We can also just go ahead and move the NG to sensors, and now we can see how they're trying to do repairs on the enemy ship. So again, once the engine's offline or the piloting is offline, they have no evasion and they can't charge their FTL drive. Alright, so we got 23 scrap for that, 2 missiles and a drone part. Go ahead and move the NG back. Take another jump. Alright, upon completing a jump, you receive a message from a nearby ship. Greetings and welcome to our beacon. For a small fee, we will let you continue on our way. So we can give them scrap or we can fight. We're going to fight. Again, we see drone control here and a mini beam. So this is a relatively safe fight. If it's a beam drone, we're 100% safe. If it's a combat drone Mark 1, it actually does have the potential to take down 2 shield bubbles, leaving us vulnerable to the mini beam. Okay, so it's a beam weapon. We're 100% safe. Now, while we can move the NG to shields, beam weapons always hit 100% of the time. And as such, we can't train evasion on beam weapons, and it doesn't count for shield training. Ooh, they got 2 Mantis and an NG. Another interesting thing about easy mode in Sector 1 is they don't man the engines. They clearly didn't watch this video, and knowing that manning the engines is the second most important thing. So their evasion is like 5 points less than what you typically would find on other ships. Let's go ahead and knock out the shields. Okay, so they have Mantis repairing it. We haven't talked about Mantis yet. Mantis are combat specialists. They deal 1.5 damage in combat. They also move, I think it's 1.25 times faster than others. But the repair speed is half. So even though 2 NGs were working on that system, that only equated to a single person working on the system, where an NG is like 2 people working on a system. Alright, ship explodes and we get 26 scrap, 2 fuel, 2 missiles. Okay, we're at 78 scrap and now we're about to do a dive. This is fun. So yeah, the dive ship is going to be harder and we're going to have to deal with an ASB. The ASB deals 3 damage to our ship. So I'm going to prepare for that by actually getting level 4 engines. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to this dive exit. Again, we're just diving for the sake of information. Alright, so we found the exit beacon by the rebels. They got here first. If you can survive long enough, you can jump to the next sector. Now, dive fights always only result in a single fuel. That's it. You kill the crew, defeat the ship, doesn't matter what, you only get a single fuel. So most times you're just trying to get away as fast as possible. So we're going to turn out the oxygen, power up our engines, and we get level 4 engines. Now, we already see how this ship is much more dangerous than previous ships we fought in this sector. It has 2 shields instead of 1. That looks like 2 basic lasers, and that could either be an Artemis or a Leto, so that is a 3 to 4 power weapon system. They even have a med bay online. They'll probably have more engines, potentially, let's see, how much crew? They still only 3 crew, still not actually manning engines there. Alright, so the purpose of a dive, like I said, is to try and get out of this as fast as possible, minimizing the amount of damage we take. And this is the point where I just remember that on easy mode, dives don't have ASBs. So the ship hit on hard and normal mode, there's a flashing warning sign telling you there's an ASB that's going to shoot your ship that we actually don't have to deal with. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's go ahead. Our missile can ignore the 2 shield bubbles. And like I said, I'm just trying to get out of here, so we'll try and do just damage We can do damage to their weapons to try and take their weapons offline with the missile and get away. Or we could do damage to their shields. Take their shield bubbles down to 1, and then hope the burst laser deals damage to their weapon system. So let's go ahead and do that and show how we can sort of fight a superior ship with our setup. Okay, that's an Artemis. So yep, that is a 4-powered weapon system here. We're not currently needing to heal anybody in the medbay, so we're just going to let that go. Ooh, the dodges. Okay, took 2 damage there. Enemy ships, minus the flagship, do eventually run out of missiles. It's somewhere about 6 to 8, depending on what the ship is. Okay, we've actually dealt full damage to their shields. Now we have 3 projectiles at their weapons. Okay, so we took the Artemis and the basic laser online. Our 1 shield bubble leaves us fine. Evasion-wise, our shield's able to actually deal with our weapon system. So we're going to have the NG come over and help repair engines. We don't want them down for too long. Now this isn't really worthwhile, the amount of resources we're spending, missiles to get a single fuel. It's purely for instructional purposes. Okay, so we see that these 2 weapons are still down, so I'm going to go ahead and target the shields once more, just to ensure that those shields are down and that our burst laser is good to go. If the Artemis missile does come back online, then I will use the Artemis on the room. Okay, so again, shield system, single shield. We can go ahead and repair the medbay then, just because we can. Alright, so we've now completely taken out his weapon system. Don't need to use the Artemis, hopefully, anymore. Alright, so actually we can now see that they don't have a pilot. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually have level 2 piloting, so they might still have some evasion. But it'll be very little. Alright, so no time to salvage the enemy ship. We have to jump away before the cruisers get into firing range, so we just get a single fuel. Okay. Since we don't have to run away, let's make sure our entire crew is healed up to full. Oh yeah, I have to actually power the medbay for that to work. So I guess Sector 1 diving in normal mode might not be too bad. I mean, we did get an extra 2 jumps out of that. So it was 2 jumps worth of scrap because we don't have to do with the ASBs. The ASBs are very terrifying. Alright, so we can click on next sector and we get to see sort of what all the sectors are in our path making it to here, the hostile sector known as the Last Stand. So nebulas are filled with nebulas. They have a tendency to have more automated scouts. Slugs kind of like to hang out there more so. They also have a lot more empty jumps, and your sensors won't be working in those systems. It's not going to be totally a nebula, it's just going to be mostly a nebula. If you have something like long-range scanners, which lets you see additional points when you jump, nebulas are very strong places to go. Plus, you're going to need a lot of fuel. You'll be able to squeeze in a lot of jumps. Even the fleet pursuit is lessened, not as much as they were, for a normal sector within nebula, but still, you can get a lot of jumps in a nebula. Red sectors are aggressive sectors, so these are going to be like rock-controlled, mantis-controlled, or pirate-controlled, or rebel-controlled. They also could be homeworlds. Homeworld sectors are tougher ships, and they also have unlocks for other ships in FTL. Green sectors are Zoltan and civilian-controlled or NG-controlled. They're less likely to have fights, and more likely to have free stuff. So if you're like hurting for items, you kind of want to limp through green sectors. If you just need pure scrap for improvements on your ship, red is typically the way to go. So we're going to go ahead and go to the red sector, see if we can find a store that we actually have to make a decision at. Alright, so once again, we're in Sector 2, and we're going to start first by looking at the sector, making sure there's no treacherous jumps. So we're at 5 fuel. It's a little bit low. It's actually a lot of bit low. So we kind of want to press to see as many jumps in this sector as we can. So if we go jump here, we see 4 total jumps, but if we go here to here, we also see 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's 5 jumps. This gets us 4. You sort of like each sector layout still follows, or jumps within a sector follow a certain pattern. So, like, red sectors typically have less stores. Green sectors are more likely to have more stores. Like NG sectors will have 3 stores in them. So it's a good idea to try and path your way so you can see all the points in a sector to sort of know where your layout is. So if you're really looking for a store, you want to see the most jumps. But it's also good, like, if you jump here and you don't see any stores, then you know that the stores are on this half of the sector. So hopefully we can get some scrap and, like I said, go to a store and try and make an actual decision. Okay, they're offering us 2 missiles to take away 2 of our missiles for 3 drones. Still don't have a drone system, potentially still using missiles. So we're going to go ahead and ignore that. There is. Okay. Now, Sector 2, like Sector 1, going to be relatively easy ship fights by comparison's sake to, of course, later sectors. I have found that enemy shields are level 2 or 3, so you're only going to see a single shield bubble. Engines run from levels 1 to 3, so evasion is expected to be about between 15 and 25%. They'll still only have about 1 to 3 power in weapons, 1 to 2 in piloting, and 2 to 3 crew. So the ships are going to be almost identical to the ships that we saw in Sector 1. Alright, so we have a distress beacon. Let's go ahead and check that out. Someone might need our help. Always good to go to, like, distress beacons or anytime it tells you that there's a ship there. The whole point of getting to a jump is to get, scrap. So the idea that there's a, quote-unquote guaranteed event at any space is normally worthwhile. Unless you're taking damage and you're trying to get to a store, then you're looking for empty jumps. So once again, as you arrive at the location, a distress call of a civilian ship hails you. Thank you for responding to our beacon. Our FTL navigation is going haywire, and we can't plot a course to the nearest depot to get it fixed. Could you help us? Okay, we can lead them to their destination. Again, events have different rewards. It's possible we lead them to the destination and they give us some scrap, or I think they can do a reactor upgrade. It also could be a trap and we fight an enemy ship. Either way, it's an event that something can possibly happen. So we'll lead them to their destination, and we get 15 scrap for that, and a quest marker. I think that's the first quest marker we have. All right, so yeah, we now see that a quest marker has popped up on the map for us. So that is their destination. Like knowing events, knowing quest rewards is really good information, because some quests are just kind of awful. And you're like, maybe I don't even want to go to that quest. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump to see more jumps. Looking for a store. Hopefully we don't run out of fuel. If we do, I guess we get that as a learning experience as well. Alright, so you find 2 heavily damaged ships floating around nearby, the remains of a battle, being harvested for some usable debris when you hear the sound of someone beaming aboard, followed by the sounds of a boarding party. Okay, so we actually got at least some scrap from this. Some of the boarding parties, we don't get one. So we're going to pause and hit continue. Uh-oh, I didn't put my NG back on doors. So that's the first thing, to try move the NG back to doors and see where they teleported into our ship. Okay, so we're in a nebula, which means our sensors are offline, but it's pretty obvious they made it to the engines. So if we move our human out of the engine room, we can see that this little fist above the engine means that it's being attacked by boarders. So we have a couple options. We could take our crew and put it over here. 3 humans on 3 humans, bring in the NG as well. And what we do is we'd try to win that fight. Alright, NG. We're going to leave the NG behind for reasons. So we've... all things considered, humans versus humans, it's a push who's going to survive that fight. We're actually probably going to lose because the NG, our engineer human, has already taken some damage. So when you're fighting, when you have borders, you always have to do this assessment whether it's best to fight the crew or delay them. So right now we're kind of doing a delay, and we're just fighting for, again, just sort of show you what a fighting looks like. We're going to go ahead and open these doors here and open the doors in the engines. Alright, and we're going to move our human pilot here into the med bay. Now we can see our crew is taking a significant amount of damage. What these two crew members are doing, they're not trying to win this fight. What they're trying to do is delay taking damage to the engines while the O2 leaks out of the room. Alright, we now see that the O2 is completely gone from the room. We're going to move our two crew members over to the med bay. We're going to go ahead and power the med bay as well as oxygen now. So turning off oxygen does drain the rooms even faster when we have them exposed by opening the airlocks. Now, because the O2's already gone, we see them beating on the doors. They're flashing red. So even though we don't have sensors, we know exactly where they are in the ships. Doors will flash red if they're in rooms without systems, because they're trying to get to a room with systems. Or see a little fist up of them when they're actually doing damage to those systems. So now we can just go to the med bay, and we could wait. And we see that now, because we have doors manned, they have to beat through every single one of these doors to try to get to our crew. And that's going to take a long time, and they're probably going to just die from asphyxiation. So we can just win from here without taking any damage. Maybe we didn't have this NG. Maybe our situation was a little bit worse, so we're going to go ahead and move the NG to here. And now they can just freely move through our ship. So we're going to keep opening doors until they make way to the med bay. That is the, that's sort of the goal. Alright, we'll just leave the med bay door open here just as to invite them in. Okay, so the repair rule also applies to the damage rule. So because they didn't do complete damage to the oxygen system before they left, our oxygen system stays online. Now, of course, our door's open, so we're still losing oxygen in the O2 room. A level 1 med bay evens out with oxygen loss. Once the fighting starts, that's a different matter. We'll be taking damage. Okay, so now what we've done is we've forced the borders into the med bay. We can close the doors, turn on oxygen, turn on the med bay. And now we're fighting on our terms. So we're healing, they're not, they're dying, we get to live. Okay, so make sure, again, that all of our doors are closed because we just lost oxygen and we can't see the layout of our own ship. So it would be bad to just sort of send our crew aimlessly about the ship. They could potentially die. So we let the oxygen return a little bit. We go ahead and return our crew to their positions. Distress beacon. Really was hoping for a store. It's a red sector. Stores are kind of rare. Okay, so it appears the distress beacon is coming from the surface of a nearby moon. The sensors are picking up a single life form. Okay, going down to the surface and investigating on this quest is completely safe. You find a colony that seems to have been recently attacked. Exploring the devastation, you find a lone survivor. Now, if they say the lone survivor has a questionable mentality, it's potential that you could lose a crew member. So now we have the option of inviting them to join our crew or taking them home to a system nearby. We'll go ahead and offer to join our crew. 5 crew is kind of the safe minimum, I feel, on a ship. So what we're hoping for is a different crew than what we have in regards to giving us blue options. So you only need 1 human, that unlocks all human blue options, same with the NG. Oh, perfect, we have a Zoltan. We haven't even talked about Zoltans yet. He states that he was a pilot before being stranded. Yeah, this event always has a level 1 skill and offers you services for a time in exchange for getting off that rock. Okay, So we have Charlie, they're always called Charlie. Charlie is a Zoltan. Now he's trained in piloting, but we're absolutely not putting him on piloting because Zoltans are a reactor power. So they provide power to the room that they're in. Their health is only at 70 versus 100, but when they die, they deal 15 damage to all enemies. We don't really want them to die. So putting Charlie in piloting while we get the piloting skill is a waste of his power bar. Shields, however, is a perfect place for him. And we can see the yellow bar signifying that we have a alternative power source. Now, you have to be careful with Zoltans on your ship and moving them about. It's why putting them in, like, shields is typically okay, or engines. You almost never want one in weapons. And the reason is, as they move through a system or a room, you see that they get the power bar, and they leave, it tries to transfer that power. So if we put him in this room, and so we got this free power bar, we'll go ahead and put it in engines. When he leaves that room, our system depowers. So if you're moving Zoltan throughout the ship, you typically want to have a power bar floating so they don't depower the weapons. Now, Zoltans have some other interesting abilities. Multiple Zoltans in shields actually prevent ions from hitting your ship. They also can sort of steal power from rooms if you have a system like cloaking. You could run them through the cloaking, and that power bar that we just had, you know, stolen from the weapons, you could actually steal a power bar that was locked up in another system. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this jump. Hopefully we can get some fuel, otherwise we can see what it's like to run out of fuel in FTL. Alright, pirate ship arrives shortly after you. Judging from the fact that it's attempting to avoid you, we of course are going to have to attack the pirate. Okay, so again, we can look at an enemy ship. We see that it has 2 heavy laser 1s, so our level 2 shields make us completely safe. This is absolutely one of the best ships to train on early for evasion's sake. We have really high evasion already. We have level 4 engines. That's really strong. These weapons fire every 9 seconds. Oh, FTL is charging though. Okay, so we just were boarded. It doesn't look like they boarded into a systems room. We don't see a fist, so we're looking for a red door. There it is. So crew boarded into this room. So let's go ahead and try draining that oxygen out. Now we don't want to move our NG to engage because they'll just move right in. And of course it's tricky to move our Zoltan in as well. Because we also don't want our shields to depower, and then we could potentially take damage from him. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is just take down its piloting, hopefully drop its evasion. Okay, so that means our burst shots are completely guaranteed. We'll target their shields. Now what's curious is they could potentially offer us a bribe. Now normally bribes are like less than what you'd get if you destroy the ship, but we are low on fuel. So if they offered us a bribe that was rich in fuel, say 3 or more fuel, I would take it. Actually, I'd almost take any bribe that has any fuel in it, because I don't want to, because I wouldn't want to stick around at a jump without any fuel. Okay, so there's the border. Okay, we're going to order the NG. We're going to depower the oxygen as the Zoltan moves. Alright, back on the oxygen. Since we're already dealing with the border, we could send the NG in to facilitate taking down this enemy. Also closing the doors. Alright, so they ran away before we took any, before they died. That's fine. You know what I haven't done? I haven't saved my crew positions. So we're going to have to manually push them back. They're taking a little bit of oxygen loss, that's okay. And see, we depowered the weapon there. We caught it just in time though. Okay, we do want to power the oxygen since we depowered the oxygen. Evasion isn't so important since we are safe. Didn't have to use a missile here. Let's go ahead and take their engines out to ensure that they can't run away. Alright, so we saw that that said resist. I think it's the first time we've seen something along those lines. Enemy ships can actually have an augment that is typical for that ship type. So this is a rock ship, which means it can come with rock plating, which has a chance to resist hull damage when taking damage to a system or room. It's like 15%. NGs can have a dispersal system, which means that they actually heal when they're not in the med bay. And slugs have slug hull repair gel, which can repair breaches automatically. Alright, they didn't offer us a bribe, they chose to die, and they didn't give us any fuel. Cool. Let's go ahead and heal up crew. It's not cool that they give us fuel, but again, we get to see what it's like to run out of fuel in FTL. We ran out of fuel because I didn't buy any at that store in Sector 1. Move there, go ahead, save positions. Alright, so we're going to go to the jump, and it very subtly tells us that we have no fuel. So we have to wait. And maybe something comes, or maybe something doesn't come. The only ship within hailing range appears to be a civilian vessel. However, it quickly leaves once it picks up your signal. Alright, so we got nothing. This is why running out of fuel is bad. The fleet pursuit keeps trying to catch up with us. It's also why we pushed as far into the sector as we could when low on fuel. Not only do we get to see more jumps, we don't want this catching up. Again, dives are normally bad. Okay, we're going to wait again. Cabin fever spreads among your crew. It doesn't really do anything. We wait again. 3 jumps have now been lost. As you drift through space, an NG ship passes through. From listening to the comm channel, it sounds like they're discussing making repairs to their ship. We will hail them. They fail to respond, but move to intercept. You detect abnormal electromagnetic signals aboard the ship. Someone has reprogrammed the fight. Okay, so we're going to be fighting some NGs. Now, NGs will have offensive and defensive drones, and then they have a drone system here. We see that they have a pike beam. Is that the first pike beam? Oh no, we dealt with mini beams. So pike beam could cut across half a ship, but it can't pierce a single shield on its own. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue. They also have an ion weapon here. So the ion takes down 1 shield, but it can't pass 2. And the pike beam can't cut through a single shield. So again, 2 shields makes us 100% safe. They also have a defense drone, shoots down missiles and asteroids. So our Artemis missile is pretty worthless right now. That's unfortunate, because I would like to take away their evasion or their piloting so they can't run away. And their NGs are going to repair quickly. This is very sketchy. We're going to sort of have to rely on the burst to do damage. So I'm not concerned about their weapons. I could take them out of the shielding to make them more vulnerable, but I'm actually going to target their drones. Hopefully I do enough damage to take this offline, and then the Artemis becomes live for us. Okay, so that has been depowered. Artemis is now live. They're going to move crew around to try and repair it. They probably didn't pull their pilot. That's normally the last thing that gets removed. So we're going to go ahead and try and Artemis down their piloting now. Okay, that hit, so their evasion is 0. They don't have the drone up. Wow, so we see how quickly the NGs are able to actually repair the ship. Alright, we're in a pretty desperate situation, so yeah, we're going to use another missile and try to keep that drone down. Okay, so we'll go ahead, fire the missile again. We're going to wait on the burst laser. If the missile doesn't take down their piloting, we're going to try and do it with the burst laser. If it does take down the piloting, that means its evasion is 0 and we can finish them off with the burst laser. Alright, with a hostile NG ship destroyed, we carefully extract as much fuel as possible from the wreckage. So there we go, we have our 3 fuel. There's the quest. Still need a store, so we can go quest and then here, and then we'll see if one of these is the store, and that will also show us if that point was a store. So yep, it in fact was a trap. The escort ship had requested beacon. Much to your dismay, they ambushed by a rebellion ship. Okay. So they have boarding, they have a missile system, and a basic laser. Now we should be prepared for this. We're of course going to fire a missile at their missile system or their weapon system, because this is a threat to us. And we'll see where they board. Into piloting. Okay, so boarding into piloting actually pulls our pilot off the system. It's still powered, but we don't get his 5% evasion bonus for manning the system. We'll go ahead and send in the NG to help with the fight. Not ideal, like if we had somebody who, like another human there, but I don't want to lose any of these other systems. And I don't want to mess with the Zoltan depowering stuff. Okay, here comes our weapon. Alright, it's just a Lado, 1 damage, 2 to their weapon system, now completely offline. Okay. So as long as our weapon system's down, we don't have to heal them up. Typically, we only get boarded twice with a teleporter. Alright, so we don't really have the option with this ship, but I haven't actually talked about getting crew kills. While it's normally done with a teleporter, you can be selective in targeting enemy crew members aboard their ship in an attempt to kill them off. So weapons deal 15 times their stated damage to crew. So 1 damage weapon deals 15 damage, 2 damage weapon is 30 damage, and so forth. It's always it's tricky to do it with weapons because they typically will run out of hull. But killing crew members yields about 15% more scrap and more likely to find free items, such as weapons or drones. Okay, so they got their weapon system back online. Let's go ahead and try and take that down with the burst laser. They have no piloting, we saw that. Their evasion should be very low. So we're actually going to be somewhat... So this is what we're thinking. If they repair fast enough to put the Lado online, if we fire the burst laser at their shields and then try to come back to it, the Lado will fire during that time frame. So we're just delaying a little bit, wait for them to get the Lado and then shooting it back down. Okay, FTL is charging. They are trying to get away. So let's go ahead and Artemis something. Uh-oh. So saving on the Artemis potentially risks them getting away. Okay. So we lucked out, we got in there just in time before they jumped away. We would have gotten any reward for that. Okay, 2 fuel. Cool, we needed fuel. 1 drone, 33 scrap. Out of curiosity, is there a store here? There is not. So that'll be the next jump. We'll go ahead and heal our injured crew. So we're already sitting at 4 engines in Sector 2 plus 2 shields. That's normally what I try to have by this sector. So a good thing in FTL is to sort of have these little rules of thumb as you progress through the game. So you always have some goal to try to obtain. So like I said, in normal mode you can push really hard to have quick improvements, or on easy mode you can push really hard to have a lot of improvements on your ship. Early, I mean, we could actually afford level 3 shield in Sector 2. That's kind of nuts and unnecessary at this point. But we're now floating about 138 scraps. So let's go ahead and see if we can find a store, because we still are low on fuel. And then maybe we'll actually be able to buy something. Alright, screen lights up with warnings. Nearby pirate seems to have an advanced hacking tool. Okay, so this is event hacking. There actually is an advanced edition, a thing that does temporary hacks. These are super annoying. The crew manages to keep them very operational, so I believe this will hack us down to a single engine. Okay. So they have a combat drone as well as a basic laser. That alone can defeat 3 shields. And since our evasion's now only 10% because of our engines being turned off, it's very likely we're not going to evade these shots. We also see that they have a bomb. Most of the bombs use all the bombs use the exact same image, so you can't really tell what it is. You guess based on timing to a certain degree. So bombs, unlike missiles, don't do damage to hull. They still penetrate 5 shields, but they can't be shot down by defense drones, so that's sort of the trade-off. They're also typically a little bit slower than their counterparts. So like our Artemis is 1 power, it deals 2 damage, it's like 11-second charge. A small bomb which deals 2 system damage takes 13 seconds. So, alright. Targeting wise, I'd want to actually take down their weapon system. Once these 2 things are offline, this can't deal us damage. Versus taking down this and the bomb potentially being able to disrupt what we're trying to do on our ship. Yeah, see, these drones occasionally do these really quick fires on enemy ships when they're from enemy ships. So I like to use a missile to try and get safe as fast as possible. Okay, 2 powers, the weapon system is down. Take down their defense. Take down their evasion. Out of curiosity, do they have a repair drone? Okay, nope, they have an NG. Okay, so this started a fire, that's good. Potentially if we were doing crew kills, this is really nice. It's not doing hull damage, it's just doing crew damage. Okay, ship destroyed, our engines returned, 4 fuel, 37 scrap. Come on, store. Really? I wanted to do a store in this tutorial. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps before the exit. Alright, immediate contact by a settlement. Hello, travelers. You seem to be outfitted for combat. Care to take up some mercenary work? Sure, we'll listen to their offer. Some of our friends have taken to piracy. In the recent chaos of the war, we like to convince them of their poor decision by severely damaging the ship. We will pay you as long as you don't kill them. Okay, we'll totally accept this event. We do not want to kill all the crew. We do not want to kill the ship because they will give us a free weapon. So let's see, find pirate ship dock, they immediately respond with appearance with your money or your life. They must be new to this. Okay, they got an... Again, we see they have 2 heavy ones. We're completely safe with level 2 shields. We're just trying to soften them up a little bit. Alright, they hail your ship saying, "You win! We're not cut out for this." So if you just kill them, you get a minor reward and some message about not going back to the colony, but again, a free weapon, not going to turn that down. Let them return to the settlement. Pirates dissuaded from the current career path. You return to the settlement. Thank you. You returned to us before they did. I don't think we'll be needing this anymore. So 30 scrap and a Burst Laser Mark 1. Great. Burst Laser Mark 1 is a solid weapon. It's worse than the Burst Laser 2, but then everything's worse than the Burst Laser 2. It has a charge time of 11 seconds for 2 power versus 12 seconds and 2 power, but it only fires 2 projectiles instead of 3. So let's go ahead and do an upgrade on our weapon system. We get the power bar for as well, 145 scrap. Scrap-wise, you shouldn't need more than 150. 150, like I said, buys the most expensive system in the game, cloaking. After that, you're just... Normally, you're just putting it to waste. Should try and put scrap to use as fast as you can. You barely have time to register jump completion before your ship warns you of an incoming ship with weapons hot. Okay, so we have a burst, or a basic laser, med bay here, and a missile system of some sort. Okay. So now, this is why I don't choose auto firing. This burst laser fires in 10 seconds, or 11 seconds, and this one fires in 12 seconds. We actually want for both of our weapons to be fully charged before we fire them. Because their shields are going to recharge. So if we fire them sort of indiscriminately, which is exactly how the computer fires their weapons, there's possible that like the shield comes up and in between the shots. So firing them at the same time is much more effective. Okay, so we can pause the screen, target their weapons with both of our weapons. Okay, and the weapons is offline. Have fire pretty far away from us. Let's go ahead and just open the doors to vent. Don't have to worry about it. Okay, they didn't get the missile system online. Again, we wait. And quickly dump the ship. Alright, so we get 25 scrap of that. What's nice is that we're now actually not using missile resources right now. It wouldn't be a wrong thing to get the Artemis online as well. Jump. Okay, and we also know that there's no store for a little while. So we'll go ahead and let's get the Artemis online. No. Let's get Shields 3 online instead. Yes. Yeah, so yeah, getting the Artemis online isn't inherently wrong. It's just that we now are firing 5 projectiles against a currently single shielded ships. They'll start being 2 shielded ships in the next sector. So 5 projectiles versus 2 shields is 3 shield shots that they have to evade. It's likely they'll evade 1, but not 2. So we'll get full power. Alright, so now we're fighting in an asteroid field. So really nice that we got that 3rd shield up. Prior and landing, wait inside the asteroid field, immediately moves into attack. So we're both always affected in these events. There's asteroid fields, there's solar flares, there's pulsars. We also saw the plasma storm, which halved our power. So there's just going to be these random little asteroids occasionally hitting our ship. And theirs as well, taking down a shield bubble. So it's worthwhile. You could be opportunistic. Like, let's say our burst laser was charged up when that part hit. We don't have to wait for the burst laser to time with the shields. We can just hit something right away. Well, we're going to wait for full charge. Now, the asteroids typically only take down 1, potentially 2 shields. Because we know this, we're actually going to target their weapon systems just to ensure that we're completely safe. Oh, forgot to target with both. Alright, we got in there. It's actually one of the reasons I have a weapons tier list that like slower projectile weapons are kind of frowned upon because that window with the shields are down is only a few seconds. And so if you have like multiple slow projectiles, it can be difficult to time them to get in that window. Alright, so civilian colonists loyal to the rebels cause are presented in a nearby planet. They're currently receiving supply shipments. Okay, let's go ahead and attack the rebels for scrap. Alright, that's a pretty serious weapon system they have. So they got a burst 2 just like us and a missile. I'm going to assume it's a LATO, that it's not a 4-powered weapon system. That seems really unlikely. Now, have we actually been attacked by Burst 2? Okay, so this is another thing worth noting about enemy ships. Alright, gotta wait for their... Okay, 1 damage to a random room. Okay, so their burst laser fires 3 projectiles just like ours. So we're gonna wait a second, though. And you notice that they're spread. So they don't... Enemy projectiles from laser weapons don't all target the same room. It picks out of all the rooms. So actually no 2 shots from a single weapon will hit the same room twice. This is why occasionally having a buffer point or 2 in a system is really strong. It mitigates that system from becoming ineffective. Or weapons totally fire at the same thing. So let's go ahead and take down their weapon system now. Ooh, okay, didn't get it down all the way. Now, it is currently believed that the way enemy ships depower their weapons is based on their charge. So this weapon had fired the most recently. Recent. And this one was still charging, so this was probably at a very low charge versus this one at a high charge, and so it depowered that. It also does it based on how much power they actually have in their systems. So we dealt 2 damage, and they took off the 2 powered weapon. Now in easy mode, it seems that all rooms are just as likely to get hit. AI doesn't seem to favor one room versus another. Like in hard mode, it absolutely favors rooms with systems that are more likely to get hit. Alright, so see there, we killed a crew member. It should take 7 shots for them to die. NG go fix. Alright, steal supplies from the civilians. We can potentially take hull damage. We can get some reward, so let's go ahead and do it. We're kind of okay on a hull. Alright, cool. They teleport the supplies to your ship. It's nothing more than building construction supplies. Well, scrap is scrap. And that is true. Okay, return everyone back to their actual positions here. Still not a store. Cool. NG Homeworlds. So again, this is Homeworlds will have tougher ships. There's also a ship unlock potential here. It's a green sector, likely to have 3 or more stores. Go ahead and try to find a store. Alright, number of ships are fleeing a small space station. You hail them. What's wrong? Help, we're being overrun by some sort of giant alien spiders. Yeah, I didn't check out the map. So I gotta slow down a little bit here. So there are a couple blue options. A bio beam, which is found on the Slug A, actually gives you a blue option here. I also think boarding drone does. There's a good chance you could lose crew on it. Well, I shouldn't say it's a good chance. It's like there's a percentage. It's like 25% chance you lose a crew member here. So we're just going to leave the spiders alone. Before the Advanced Edition came out, 100% chance you lost a crew member on that event. Okay, so yeah, there's the sector layout. Okay, nothing too tricky, and we actually get to make it to a store to make store decisions. Fun. Okie dokie. So the first thing you should always do at a store is take a quick look around. You have all the time in the world to make your decision. That's also pause whenever you need to. You always have the time to make decision. Anytime you question or doubt anything, please hit the pause button. Okay, so first thing is always to take care of the most important things, and that's normally fuel is number 1, hull is number 2. Then we can worry about other things. That can change though. If there's something where like you progressed so far in the game and you don't have a weapon system that deals with shields, then you might have to not have what is a typically safe amount of fuel and or hull because you have that necessity of not having to take down enemy ships. I mean, if you can't kill enemy ships, you can't get scrap, and you just start sort of bleeding scrap out, and you become weaker and weaker until eventually you just die. That's not our situation, though. We currently have 5 projectile. That's pretty good. We could potentially put the Artemis online as well. So first, let's buy up fuel. Like I said, I'd like to see around 12 to 14 fuel. 14 fuel, really ideal. So we'll buy all 3 here. Now, hull repair. We don't repair our hull all the way to full. The reason we don't do this is there are events where they reward you with hull repair. And most enemy ships, barring the flagship, aren't going to just dunk you. So sitting at 23 hull, 22, 23 hull is going to be enough, more times than not. Plus your potential to find other stores. So this is makes use of free repairs that we can get along the way. All right, now we're sitting at 65 scrap, which is the perfect amount for the halberd beam. I'm probably going to buy the halberd beam just to show you how the halberd beam works. It's, in my opinion, one of the best weapons in the game, and we haven't really got to use a beam weapon yet. Can I do this? I have 5 power weapon system, right? No, I have a 4 power weapon system. Okay. So we're in Sector 3. We already have 3 shields and 4 engines. That's, like, perfect. That's actually probably good enough to get through all the way through Sector 7. 3 shields is pretty much the minimum. We pressed to get it early, that's fine. 2 shields would be sort of okay, but we're going to have so much scrap, it's fine. So now we're just sort of buying weapons. And this is why we have a couple interesting decisions to make here. So the halberd beam is an endgame weapon. This thing is going to annihilate ships. The downside is that it's going to take 3 power to get online, which means we are going to need another upgrade to have an additional weapon online of any sort. And it slows down our time to 17 seconds. Before we fire that first volley, we're now firing it every 12. So one of the things to consider when doing a weapon loadout is the fact that while we're going to be doing more damage, we're going to be slowed down by 5 seconds from where we were. And that invites enemies to actually fire first. Luckily, well, not luckily, we sort of have, as we progress along the way, we have plenty of defense against most enemy ships. And like I said, this is a pretty strong endgame weapon. If we had like another really quick weapon with the burst 2 and whatnot, I could potentially conceive buying just the automated reloader and speeding it up that much faster and just alpha striking ships. So this isn't a wrong decision, and neither do I think the halberd beam is a wrong decision because it is that powerful. Like that would be our weapon system for the game in Sector 3. Because we can only have a total of 8 power in our weapon systems, that's 3, the 2 bursts are 4, and then the Artemis is 1. So that would be an 8 powered 4 weapon system, and it would be pretty amazing. About as good as a weapon system setup as you could get in FTL. Let's see if we depower weapons. Once we get the halberd online, we're 1 power short from getting something else online. Okay, so we can take another jump. Let's see, you notice an energy colony hiding on the other side of a nearby moon. It turns out they're evacuating equipment cache from the Federation Mantis Wars, and this suggests it might be used to lure a pursuing rebel fleet. So if we spend 2 missiles, we get 2 extra jumps in the sector, or we secure the cache and we can get a drone or a weapon. Let's go ahead and get a drone or weapon, just see what it is that we can get. If I had long-range scanners or a map of the sector, I think this would be a little bit more tempting, just the pure scrap rewards. We're kind of looking for more scrap. But I'll take guaranteed scrap rewards versus potential. Again, this is an NG sector, so there's more empty jumps, less scrap potential here. Okay, so we only got 35 scrap in the system repair drone. That sells for 15 scrap. And we need 50 scrap to go ahead and get our weapons online. Oh, look. So we can actually go to this store, sell that drone, get 50 scrap to get our halberd beam and another item online. But is that a bad plan? So we're still already low on fuel. Jumping to that store just to get the beam weapon online is probably a bad idea. We should really just prioritize getting fuel here. Burst laser 2, hole laser 2. So hole smasher laser Mark II is another really strong weapon in FTL. I sort of ignored the glaive beam. Don't buy glaives. They're just really, really slow and really heavily power dependent. Hole Smash Laser 2 is amazing. The projectiles are very fast. It's easy to fit them in tight windows. They also have a really strong tendency to cause breaches. It's 3 projectiles in a single weapon slot. That's good. We've already done the Burst Laser 2. Breach Mark II is probably the strongest bomb in the game. It deals 3 damage to a system. I mean, that pretty much knocks any system offline instantaneously. It also causes a breach, so that has to be repaired. Even though this doesn't do any hull damage, it essentially just turns off a system on an enemy ship. If you're boarding this instantaneously, if it hits, it takes out like a med bay or a clone bay in the advanced edition, and you can just mess up crew. Takes down 2 shield bubbles. Really, really strong. Again, we're not here looking for weapons right now. Ooh. I didn't know it had long-range scanners here. Okay, so we sell the system repair drone. We have a decent amount of crew that we don't need to buy a drone system to have essentially a repair bot running around. Okay, so let's see how much fuel we can buy to still have 30 scrap left over. All of it. So we go to 12, and yep, we're gonna go ahead and get long-range scanners. Long-range scanners are probably the best purchasable augment in the game. Zoltan Shield is what I would say is the best augment in the game. So now we actually see every connected jump what's there. So we now know that there's actually a ship here. This is really strong in evading like pulsars and other really bad fights that you just don't want to get involved in. Events with like asteroid fields. Long-range scanners for the investment are one of these, like I said, is arguably, in my opinion, and a bunch of other qualifiers, the second strongest augment in the game. Okay, have we fought a Zoltan yet? I don't think we fought a Zoltan ship yet. So once you arrive, the screen lights up with warnings. A nearby pirate seems to have advanced hacking tools. Oh no. And they try to shut down our engines, so our engines are going to be shut down to 1 again. Okay, so they have a basic laser and a mini beam, 2 shields, we're fine. We have 3 shields, so we're super fine. The Zoltan shield, which is indicated by the green bar here, takes 5 damage before it gets taken offline. We could try to just cut with the halberd beam, which doesn't miss, but since we have time on our side, we'll just go ahead and do the 2 bursts. We don't have to time the weapons. That's not really important. For this fight is just taking down the Zoltan shields as fast as we can, because we could miss. Okay, so we took them all down in 1 fell swoop. Alright, I'm going to depower these, and we're going to power up the halberd beam. So the halberd beam takes 17 seconds, 3 power, and it deals 2 damage. So this mini beam deals 1 damage, means it can't pierce a single shield. Our halberd beam, because it deals 2 damage, actually pierces a single shield to deal a single damage. So what we can do with the halberd beam is, let's say we started off in the systems room and cut to the weapons. If they do not have a buffer point in the shields, this 1 damage will take their shields offline, and it does 2 damage the rest of the way. So we could do 5 damage to their ship, potentially. And that's exactly what happened. So our 1 weapon just dealt 5 damage across 3 different rooms. And we can do it again. Now, some ship layouts, we are actually able to hit 5 rooms with a halberd beam. That's 10 damage. Alright. Gonna go ahead and depower and switch up to the 2 bursts. Those are, again, it's fast enough to deal with most of the ships we're going to be facing. Weren't you only going to go to Sector 1? We're having fun now. Don't worry about it. So you reemerge from a nearby station. A Federation cruiser jumps into Rebel territory. Quite the bold move. You quickly move to arm the weapons, but he continues. Lucky for you, we not all support the rebellion. Yeah, that's right. Perhaps these supplies can help you to friendlier space alive. So we get 36 scrap. 75 scrap. There it is. Okay, so now we can run Halberd Beam and Burst Laser 2. So the Burst Laser takes down shields, and the Halberd Beam just rips ships apart. Now we put the beam at the back here because it has the longer charge time. So if we take damage, if we take 2 damage, we can easily repair this and get back to functioning. We have a lot of options, though, with this. To be perfectly honest, we could easily just switch to the true burst lasers and probably be fine. But that's not as fun. Okay, so we have a distress, and the exit here. 2, 3, 4, 5, probably. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many jumps do we have? So we have 1 jump, 2 jumps. So we have to be there. We go 1, 2. That would be fine. The 3rd jump has to be here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we only have 5 jumps left in the sector. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Totally fine. Alright. Ship without life forms within a nearby dense asteroid field is giving off a distress call. Let us investigate. Find decaying remains of some kind of ship coated with ice or crystal. You send some crew aboard to explore. Nearly everything is either destroyed or unidentifiable, but one of the weapons appears salvageable, and there's a strange stasis pod that catches your eye. Continue. Alright, looks like a massive asteroid is on a direct collision course with the derelict ship. You have to pull your crew out, but they want to grab what they can first. What do you take? Okay, you absolutely should take the weapon and scrap. We're going to take the stasis chamber on the random, super unlikely event, just because it's fun in a tutorial that this happened, get the crystal ship unlock. So yeah, we'll go ahead and take the stasis chamber. Drags the pod on the ship before the asteroid smashes into the ship, shattering through the crystal coating and destroying the ship. So yeah, we got 19 scrap and a stasis pod, which is just an augment. So I believe we have to now find a Zoltan to supercharge it, and then we get a crystal crew member. Then we have to go to the rock home world, and we would actually unlock the crystal sector there. So we arrive at the stress beacon near a small asteroid belt with a ship with pirate markings, partially crushed between 2 large rocks. It must have been illegally mining the belt without proper equipment. Okay, so we can discharge the ship by trying to shoot at the rocks, destroy it, or we have this beam weapon, which is a guaranteed reward. If we didn't have the beam weapon, always destroy and loot the ship. Again, that's also a transfer reward. This one has a fight versus just no fight here, just scrap. Okay, 2 fuel, 1 missile, 32 scrap. Nice. Green planet with green plains and rolling waters. Is a little interest to the engineer by. Okay, fair enough. Contacted by a settlement. Hello, travelers. Your ship seems to be outfitted for combat. Would you like to take up a bit of mercenary work? I will listen to their offer. A space dock is under assault from the rebels. Although the dock is technically illegal within the laws, it is very important for our trade. We'll pay you in fuel and scrap if you promise to save it. I will agree to rescue the store. Okay, so we're pretty late in this sector, so it kicks the event over to the next sector. Now, if you're in Sector 7, then you lose out on it, and it says there's just not enough time for it. Which is always kind of unfortunate. Yeah, we could have actually got an extra jump if we pathed better. That's okay. You arrive at the long-range beacon when the FTL drive is charged. We can jump to the next sector. Debris from a forgotten battle still orbits the gas giant in the system, so it still might be usable. 36 free scrap. Cool. Next sector. Zoltan controlled or Zoltan controlled? Okay, so I want to go to this Zoltan controlled. Hopefully we find, like I said, the event where we can have our thing supercharged. But that's going to have to wait for another time. This definitely went a lot longer than what I expected, close to 2 hours. So I'll pick up part 2 later, or I might just break this down into video segments. So hope you have learned, or at the very least enjoyed the video. Learning an introduction tutorial in FTL. I guess now we'll just, I was just sort of planning breaking up into doing a Sector 1 and then a flagship fight, but I guess we'll just do a complete total run. So yeah, so we're just going to stop here and pick it up later. So again, I'm Crow Ravel. Thank you for checking out this tutorial. See you later.